Hi, everybody. It's Professor Gaida here to talk to you today about surface subjects and deep subjects in poems. Surface subjects are the starting points of poems. They're the subjects we pick to write about, right? So a poet usually starts with a poem by writing about something he, she, they see in the world, right? And this is the surface subject of the poem. These are the things we talked about. So these are the surface subjects of the poem. These are the things that we talked about in class and we will talk about. So a thing in the world is a shark attack or a city or your favorite ant, right? You could write a poem about any of these things, and that would be your surface subject. Now, you can imagine a lot of other surface subjects that you've encountered in your life, right? It could be literally almost anything. And that's a starting point. Now, the deep subject is what the poem is actually about. And you may not really know this when you start writing the poem. You may say, it would be really great to write a poem about my city or about my neighborhood or about my favorite aunt. But maybe there's something buried in that subject that I don't really understand yet. Or why am I writing about it? You may ask yourself, what am I trying to discover? And that's often what we do when we write poems. We try to discover something about our subjects and figure out what's interesting, what's drawn our attention. So um, a poet will have in mind, a surface subject that leads to exploring deeper subjects, and that has to do with some sort of broader, more common universal experience, human experience. So here are some examples of what kind of deeper subject could emerge from a surface subject as you write a poem. So a shark attack, unseen danger. That may be something you wanted to write about because maybe you have been thinking about danger as in your life or in life in general. And then, you read about a shark attack and you go, oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. What would happen if I wrote about that? And it might lead you to some revelations about unseen danger. A city might lead you to some insights, revelations about home. Your favorite ant might lead you to revelations about kindness and the value of it. So, surface subject is the conduit, the path to a deeper subject. So here's surface and deep subject in one poem, right? Honeysuckle. It sprang up wild along the chain link fence, thick with glorious white and yellow summer blooms and green tips that we pinched and pulled for one perfect drop of gold honey. But Dad hated it, hated its lack of rose and containment, its disorder. Each year he dug, bulldozed, and set fire to those determined vines, but each year they just grew back stronger. Maybe that's why I felt the urge to plant it that one day in May when Cancer stepped onto my front porch and rang the doorbell, loose matches spilling out of its ugly fists. Okay. So, honeysuckle is the surface subject, and honeysuckle, you may know, is an invasive vine. If you plant like a white honeysuckle vine, it will grow endlessly and it will take over a garden and it will keep coming back, which someone who's looking for order and kind of a human control over things will not want. You want a garden where you have ordered everything, put everything in the place you want it, and the honeysuckle kind of ruins that. But if you are thinking about cancer and the lack of control that cancer forces on someone, and you think about the growth associated with honeysuckle, it becomes a positive thing. So, in writing about honeysuckle, what this poet really gets to is this idea that when we're sick with something like cancer, this idea of growth and lack of control and maybe just uncontrolled growth is something that is both dangerous, maybe, when we think about cancer as a thing that grows, but also a sign of life, which can be life affirming in the face of cancer and death, right? So the honeysuckle becomes a kind of complex symbol. It's both out of control growth, which can be associated with cancer, but it's also out of control growth that regenerates, that we can associate with life continuing. So it's a complex symbol, and it doesn't necessarily lead us to a conclusion about this deeper subject of growth and life and illness and death, but it gives us something to think about the possibilities of affirming your life and looking for ways to perhaps grow even as you are ill, even as your usual order is upset. Okay. The other thing to say about surface subjects and deep subjects, and I think perhaps end with this, is that it's dangerous to think that you're going to know completely what the deep subject is when you start writing about the surface subject. Again, I reiterate, writing poetry is often a process of discovering what you're really writing about. So don't be afraid for the surface subject to take you in an unexpected direction and lead you toward an unexpected deep subject.